My name is Dave Cary. I sincerely appreciate the opportunity to meet with you today and to share some thoughts and information. I am a high-tech robotics and IT automation executive and engineer who, because of this work, has gotten to work with just about every imaginable industry. I've been fortunate to work with some really great people and on some really cool products and projects. I get a lot of joy out of coaching kids in life's fundamentals and in basketball. And up until a few years ago, I thought that would be my way of paying it forward. That changed when my kid's school district completely failed, academically and fiscally. I live in a district where those that could left. Of those remaining, 50% still drop out, and only 20% of the remaining graduates are prepared for college. When you do the math, that means that only 1 to 2% of our minority males will make it to and through college. Ever since I've been working to reform American education and have been pursuing a dream to build a chain of unparalleled schools that prove that any child from anywhere can win given the right system and role models. I can tell you that I've done my homework and have diligently gotten to know and studied the winners. Some of what I will share with you is completely new and likely controversial, and should cause you to question everything you've been told about fixing public education. The state of California educates 1 in 8 children. If America is to survive and thrive, we need them to succeed. 10 years ago, No Child Left Behind was enacted to provide objective data to inform us who needed to improve and what was and wasn't working. The theory was that it would help drive educational reform. I think it's fair to say that most public educators have not welcomed it. Ironically, our state's educational leaders are now using the data as a way to tell the public how much better their schools are doing today. This school district is a typical example. In their annual report, community meetings, and press releases, they point out their rising API test scores and tell us that they have transformed dozens and dozens of failing schools into institutions of achievement. State and local educational leaders are telling the press and the public that twice as many kids are now performing at proficient levels and that their educational reforms are working. And that our children across the entire state are making steady and significant gains in academic achievement, and that progress is undeniable. Unfortunately, I contend that this factual data, while correct, completely misrepresents the truth. I contend that the real end performance of our school system has not improved, that the real level of mastery looks more like this, and that student outcomes in most places are flat and failing. That the real performance of many urban districts, even those that are supposedly transforming their schools, that the real outcomes of their high school students is so bad that we have to add letter grades of G, H, and I to properly categorize their true level of education. I hate to say it, but the truth is these children will be effectively unhireable for anything other than manual labor and the prospect of competing with 20 other people for a job. And I contend that traditional California public schools are not closing achievement gaps, and that when you add in dropouts to the low achievement of the bulk of our students, regardless of demographic, that 80% of our kids are not really prepared and will have an awfully tough time of things in today's changing world. How did I come up with that? What's the big disconnect? You see, California's test results do not correspond with other rock-solid metrics such as the national test, otherwise known as the NAEP. Only our elementary school students' NAEP outcomes have ever improved. Our 17-year-old math and reading scores have not improved one bit over the past 40 years. They're dead flat. And when we break it down by race, we see that white 17-year-old performance has been dead flat for 40 years, and that while there were some gains in black and Hispanic 17-year-olds in the late 70s and 80s, neither black, white, nor Hispanic 17-year-old outcomes have improved over the last 20 years. The only demographic to see improvement are Asian Americans, who beat everyone in math and who have even caught whites in reading. SAT, ACT, state rankings, and other tests show similar results. So in the end, the truth is, California teen student performance is dead flat, which means that California's improved API scores do not reflect real improvement in subject mastery, and that the API data in its present form is misleading at best. Now, because our real teen outcomes are so flat, it's possible for us to use this fact to adjust California API scores so that they better represent the real mastery of our students. While quantitatively imperfect, we can get a qualitative approximation of real student outcomes by subtracting the state's inflated average growth out of a school's or district's API scores to get a truer idea of their student body's real aptitude. When I do so, in this case on our district, we see that our schools haven't really improved, and that this is the case for nearly every traditional public school I've looked at. I know this is hard to accept, especially if our hardworking educator has been working to improve scores. But if I'm wrong, please tell me exactly what was it that fixed all of our schools? What specifically are educators now doing that they didn't do before? How did it happen everywhere at the same time and at nearly the identical rate? The good news is there are some schools making real gains. For the most part, there are charter management organizations. Here's a comparison between my district and an inner city turnaround champion. As you can see, the difference is night and day. I found that these organizations have very similar models, that they can reproduce these achievements, and that they win even after applying the same adjustments. I've also found that none of them buy into the dogma, all the things traditional public school leaders say they need. In fact, I'll go so far to say that the more you hear an educator ranting about these things, the less likely they'll ever get your kid to college. In traditional public schools, academic success is almost entirely dependent on a child's family and circumstance. The winners face the fact that circumstance matters and have designed school models that tackle today's educational, social, economic, and familial issues head on. The real root cause of California's educational problems are that failing students are not studying enough, that negative influences are happy to fill in the after-school void, particularly for the children with tougher circumstances, and that we, the adults, haven't done anything about it. I found that the winners have some things in common. I'd like to think that our model, while similar and still a dream, brings its own innovation. Our mission is to develop what we call entrepreneurial Renaissance athletes, fit to challenge life and strengthen mankind. It's basically a whole child-centered college prep on vitamins. We believe in a longer school day and a longer year. Rather than send children home and hope they do their homework, New Era will have longer core periods so students can finish homework in class with a teacher and fellow classmates there to help them. We believe in abundant electives and using nights and weekends for reading, projects, family and fun, and for one's personal ambitions. Our smarter schedule equals about 40% more time to learn and complete one's studies. It may seem extreme, but the kids we mostly serve are so far behind, it's the only realistic way for them to succeed. And frankly, successful students have been working this hard for years. We're simply going to expect it from all of our students. New Era's educational epicenter combines a middle school, high school, and expansive community center. Our campus will stay open 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. 360 days a year, and will be a home away from home for our kids and a one-stop community and family hub. To learn more about API inflation and our model, visit neweraschools.com. Thank you for your time and attention.